I can't believe how much freedom this microphone is going to give me. I miss recording all over my house. We talk a lot on here about labor and delivery and kind of everything that goes into being a labor and delivery nurse. I've never shared with you guys the story of when I had my son. I had my son in early 2020. I originally was going to a midwife, and for my 20-week ultrasound, we had already found out the gender from a blood test at like 9 weeks, and during this ultrasound we knew something was wrong, which is the worst feeling ever, especially after you've lost babies before. Finding out that something's wrong was horrible, and they didn't tell me what was wrong, just that something was wrong, and then I'd have to follow up with maternal fetal medicine, which is like the specialty docs. So I was booted from my midwife practice and had to be picked up by like a hospital OB group. So we found out my son has one working kidney. The other one was filled like a water balloon and took up like 85% of his abdomen. So not super cool, not great for lung development. We were not sure how he was going to look when he was born, like how he was going to present, and if he was going to be able to breathe on his own. We didn't know if we were going to have to deliver him early or if we were going to have to get a procedure done to drain his kidney. So I had ultrasounds from 20 weeks on, sometimes as many as 3 in a week, and then I had OB appointments on top of that. I was in nursing school and working as a tech part-time on night shift. My pregnancy was anything but restful. Now as a labor and delivery nurse, I am like so shocked I didn't abrupt or something. Everything was kind of going fine. His kidney was not really changing. 1 week it burst, and it actually kind of decompressed his abdomen, which was a good thing. And even after it burst, it kind of healed back over and then was filling again. His kidney didn't drain at the bottom, which was why all of this was happening, but it was just on one side. It was so touch and go, seeing different doctors every appointment. We weren't sure if he was going to have to be intubated. They made me carry a bracelet that had a phone number on it in case I went into labor and I was far away, because I would need to be lifelined so that my son could go to the top NICU in the state. And oh my gosh, it was just so stressful. I was so big, like bigger than I see women who come in pregnant with twins. Then the problem became, am I going to be able to birth this baby? Because his abdomen is large from this kidney. They were trying to kind of push me to get a C-section, which I was not into. Then it became them pushing me to get induced because they thought my baby was going to be too big. And you hear so many stories of like getting induced for too big or too small babies and they end up being fine. But these were some really high-tech ultrasounds, and this kid looked like a bulldog puppy with these like super large cheeks. I got tested for gestational diabetes twice, did not have it either time. So we couldn't really figure out why this baby was going to be like so extremely big, other than the fact that me and my fiance are really tall. So the time comes and we're getting closer to the end of my pregnancy, and they tell me that they really recommend I be induced. And I'm like, okay. And they tell me the day, and it's the exact day that I miscarried the triplets. 1 year later. Felt like a sign a little bit. I don't know, just sort of weird. I went in on that day, very nervous. They started my induction. It was 8 a.m. We did a CRB, like it inflates and helps you dilate, because I was like not dilated at all at 39 and 2 days, I think, 39 weeks and 2 days. So I did the CRB. That was so uncomfortable. It is rough. I started to contract every minute, which was really cool, and my body was like totally freaking out. They were pushing me to get an epidural because they thought it could calm down the tachysystole of my uterus, like contracting over and over and over, and I like wasn't into it. And then I started getting sick from contracting so much, and they were considering giving me terbutaline, and it just was getting kind of out of hand because I wasn't dilating, but I was contracting so often. So I did opt to get the epidural. That did help slow things down, but I was kind of defeated because I had wanted to do it naturally. We started Pitocin around 2 p.m. I had the epidural all night and the CRB all night. At the hospital I delivered at, they leave CRB balloons in for up to 24 hours. Mine was in, I think, for about 25. I think they were a little late on getting it out. So the next morning they took it out. I was probably like a 4. So now it's 10 a.m. My CRB is out. I'm very well epiduralized. So I take a nap, and this is the beginning of it getting out of hand. I woke up from my nap and it felt like my stomach had been electrocuted. The most intense, extreme pain ever. I realized that I have like feeling in my feet, like quite a bit of feeling, and I can like move them more than I could before. I didn't want to be that guy that like complains about their epidural, so I was just trying to like muster through it, but the contractions were like getting stronger and stronger, and it was getting so painful. So they came and checked me, and I think I was like 7. They broke my water then, which was exciting. The contractions were getting more and more intense. About the time I realized something was wrong with my epidural, things kind of were at that end stage. I was like through transition and I think really getting close to being fully dilated. I then had all the feeling in my legs back. Like I could totally move them and could have stood up. I tell my nurse this and they check me and I'm 9.5 centimeters. It's pretty much time to have a baby. So my options were have anesthesia come and reassess, and they were considering replacing it. I thought I'll just push and have a baby and then all this pain will go away. So we start pushing. At one point I put my hand on the bed where my epidural was and the bed was soaked, and my epidural was not connected to anything. The tube coming out of my back was just laying on the bed, and the tube from the pump was just laying on the bed, and it was soaked underneath. I don't know how long I wasn't getting epidural medicine for, but definitely long enough for me to get all my feeling back. I think this actually ended up helping me, that my epidural stopped working. I was able to move and get into all these different pushing positions, and I think that's the only reason I was able to avoid a C-section. I pushed for 4 hours. We did literally every like position you can think of, like on my side and with the back of the bed up, just literally every way, like every possible way. I definitely think like the hands and knees and like leaning up on the back of the bed was like what got me the closest, and also on my side. He was not OP. He was face down like he should be, and finally after 4 hours we were ready to have a baby, and that pain I will literally never forget. They were unable to use a vacuum, so she had to like use her hands to get him out, because at the very end they were telling me to push, and like I thought I was like pushing as hard as I could, and my muscles had given out. Like there was literally nothing left after 4 hours. I think they kind of realized that, and they were thinking like C-section, like what is going on, but she was able to get him out, thank God. Yeah, he was born. Yay! 10 pounds even, which was super crazy. I did not think he was that big. I'm glad they induced me. I don't think another week, 2, he would have been way too big. I think he was almost too big this time. It was great. The repair wasn't too awful. They didn't use lidocaine or anything, and I definitely felt every stitch. That was super cool, but I didn't have that many, so it was all right. And he got to hang out with me for about 45 minutes, and then he went over to the NICU for observation, which was horrible. And then he was at another hospital for 5 days for observation because they were thinking they were going to do a test on him. And after 5 days of waiting, we found out that they don't even do that test on newborns. That part sucked. Definitely cried in the NICU and didn't really leave for 5 days. I was like so traumatized by the time we left. He just got super jaundiced there. I really needed more help with like learning how to breastfeed. All of these experiences really have made me a better nurse, and I don't let these things happen to my patients because I would never want them to feel the way I did. I would never say the things that I feel like were said to us. About a month later, we got a bill for $112,000 from that whole experience, which was super cool. So that's my birth story. It was really actually very special, and I think now being a nurse I would enjoy it even more because I kind of like understand a lot more about birth and childbearing and all of that. I'm very excited to someday have another child, but also Brogan is great, and everything that I would hope and dream for. When I first started on labor and delivery, I found myself kind of like sharing this story a lot with different coworkers. And at one point I remember apologizing and saying like, sorry, I feel like learning all of this is really bringing all of my emotions and feelings and memories from my own birth like up to the forefront. And my preceptor was like, you know, your birth story is a very like special and sacred thing, especially on this unit. Women bond through their birth stories and their loss stories, and the stories that surround childbearing in general are very, very bonding. I don't know what the right word is. They bring people together. Everyone's birth experience is just insane in its own way, and it's the beginning and the end and so many things in between. I love hearing people's birth stories. Now I love getting to share mine with all of you. I will say that I was not a nurse at the time of this, and I'm sure many more things happened while I was in labor that I never even realized. I do remember while I was pushing them flipping me a few different times. I was changing positions so often anyways, I didn't think anything of it. Looking back, I was probably having decels, and they didn't say any of that to me, nor was I in any mental capacity to even absorb that knowledge. But I think for the most part things went pretty well. Like, he got to stay on me for a while, and I don't think he had any resuscitation after birth. Like, sometimes they need CPAP and everything. Yeah, that's it.
Happy birthday, dear Brogan. Happy birthday to you.